Hi class, today we're going to talk a little bit about the rhetorical triangle to go along with chapter 1 of Anteater's Guide to Writing and Rhetoric, which is called Why Rhetoric. So we're going to really look at three simple things that all texts have in common, and that's how we're going to start to address the texts that we write, as well as analyze and look at the text that we're reading. So one of the things that I want to point out is these three things are all apparent in any writing and any text that you then read. And that is rhetor, or the author or writer or speaker, the message, and again, the message can be the point, the claim, perhaps a thesis in academic writing, and audience. And that's who are you trying to send this message to. So those are the things that you really want to think about, because then you can start to think about what are the particular techniques to address my specific audience or to get across this particular message. One thing we're going to start with is the rhetor, and that's the communicator, the person who is going through and talking about what they want to portray. So one of the things in terms of the rhetor that you want to think about is ethos, all right? And ethos is how this author presents herself to the audience. For instance, if I'm presenting you as a teacher to my students, I maintain a particular tone, a particular style, so that you can believe that I'm an authority on the topic that I'm talking about. However, that might not be appropriate in my daily life. And for instance, if I was writing an email to a friend, my friend would want to know why I was being so formal. And the same would be for you. What would be the difference in an email to a friend versus an email to a professor? How would you start out the email to a friend versus how would you address an email to your professor? The next thing that you want to think about when you're looking at developing your writing is your purpose. What are you trying to accomplish in your writing? And there are four main purposes usually that you can look at. The first one is persuasive, and you can probably guess what persuasive means. It means to persuade somebody of a particular viewpoint. So when you look at this message in this image called the City of Brotherly Love, what message do you think they are trying to get across to their audience? If you said stop the violence, that would be very apparent. Obviously, they're using a strong image of the gun as well as the big words at the bottom that say stop the violence to persuade people in Philadelphia to not use guns. Another purpose can be informative. And how do you think informative differs from persuasive? If you were to say that this has a more objective viewpoint, that would be correct. The idea of informing is to just educate your readers about a particular thing. So this poster of salads is just informing you of the different types of lettuce that you can use in a salad. It is not necessarily persuading you to eat salad, become a vegetarian or a vegan. It is just trying to tell you what is out there. So there are different distinctions between those two purposes. The next purpose is expressive, and expressive means that you're expressing a viewpoint, an opinion, but not necessarily trying to persuade someone. And this is often in a lot of our entertainment, right? It can be expressive. And so obviously you can see that this cat is expressing his viewpoint by saying, I can has a CSI audition. And then we have literary and stylistic. And literary and stylistic are a form of expressive, and usually then are also trying to do something to bend the genre, to bend form, to look at things with a new viewpoint, and to convince readers to find something different because of the style of their writing, and to look at that. So with those three purposes, we then move on to audience. How do we convince our audience of those particular purposes? So one thing you want to think about is, why is this audience important? How do you then connect with your audience? And what do you consider when you write for an audience? Some of those things in terms of an audience, you really want to think about what are the techniques, what are the styles, what are the things that they are going to approve of, and what are the things that they will disapprove of, and what will get you in the best graces as a reader in their opinion, to get across this very important thing, a message. And the message is basically the text and the medium that is used to portray a particular point of view. So you can portray the message through thought, through visual, audio, written, and multimodal. And multimodal just means a combination of the previous 4 areas. The genre and the conventions that can be used are multiple. So for instance, genres mean what is the expectations of a particular type of writing, a particular type of style. So for instance, slapstick comedy is usually more physical versus romantic comedy is something that relies upon emotions and a boy and a girl getting together at the end of a movie. So you think about the genre, what are the expectations and the conventions that are used in that genre, and how do those all help you to get across a particular message? And then the last thing, which is kind of outside the rhetorical triangle, is the context. And the context is basically for you to see where you are in terms of the world at a particular viewpoint. So you want to also think about then, why is that important to consider? And then at the end, we have this lovely rhetorical triangle that has your reader, your message, and your audience, and relies on the Aristotelian appeals of ethos, logos, and pathos. So you want to use those and think about all those in terms of whatever writing you're creating, whether it be a fictional piece of writing, whether it be nonfiction, whether it be academic writing. All of those boil down to this rhetorical triangle and what you as a reader are trying to get across to a particular audience.